Hello everyone, this is Zeeebo and welcome to this AFK journey video. So in today's AFK journey video, we're going to do an updated arena store guide for the Chains of Eternity season. So with regards to the item priorities, you should still be buying your Stellar Crystals followed by your S level sigils and skipping on this Twilight Essence. So this one hasn't really changed because Stellar Crystal is the most expensive gacha currency to get your Celestial Hypogene, and Arena Store is one of the ways where you can get this currency reliably. So 10 for those of you guys who are not in the Champion Store per month, and then additional 12 per month from the Champion Store below right here. So you can get 3 per week from this one. So do remember to buy them whenever it's available, right? So do check back every single week if you have the Champion Store unlocked, and then buy these every single month on top for you to get as many Stellar Crystals as possible. Now with regards to the Twilight Essence, this is a Whale's Essence for players who are able to push their EX weapon to EX15, and then subsequently if they want additional stats on their EX16 to 25, then that's where this essence will come in. But in most cases, even for my spending account, it's not like massive because maybe that little bit of percentage is going to give you a little bit of damage push, but there are certain situations where you did rather have your EX weapon at a lower level so that you can balance out the damage done by the boss itself, such as certain bosses that scales with lower HP the lower they go. So that's one thing to take note of. So that's why don't purchase this one, because this one does give you additional stats, so maybe a little bit more advantage for PvP and AFK stage pushing. But for the bossing side, because a lot of the bosses, in fact I think so far all the different bosses is scaled to the damage done to them. So if you do too much damage before your team can heal up, then that's where you might get wiped, and that's where you did rather have your EX weapon just at EX15 for the maximum ability from the weapon itself. So that's why I don't buy this one. And then for the hero shards, this one will be the second priority after your Stellar Crystals, and this is what we're going to talk about, right? What has changed and what are the things you want to consider in terms of which unit to purchase for their shards itself. So previously, right, I'll say the highest priority will be Hewin, followed by Cassidy, and then I'll say you can try to max out your Rowan over here. Now for the current season, or for the current meta so far, I will actually add Bryon to one of the high priority that you want to go for, because Lily May is pretty much everywhere at this point, and Lily May is able to deal with Iron really well. And if you do want to pull off your Iron Armors combo, pulling for your Bryon to Supreme Plus just to unlock additional stats as well as bait out the Lily May's ultimate is going to be really helpful for you to net those easy victories that you can pull off against certain teams with your Iron Armors combo itself. So that's why I'll say Bryon's priority has risen quite a bit because of Bryon's inclusion in the Iron Armors combo against the multitudes of Lily Mays running around. So this is an anti-meta tool for some of the older team setups if you do have them. So specifically for Bryon, it will be a Lily May bait in the Iron Armors team. You can also put Bryon against like certain AFK stage where they have Lily May as well, because that will also cancel your Iron's ultimate at the start of battle. So this is where Bryon's value definitely did increase, and not because Bryon got a lot stronger, but because Bryon is usable as a single target damage dealer, which is useful for certain contents such as Ravage Realm or certain Wilders damage centric contents, and on top of that being really helpful for the anti Lily May tool itself. So that's why I'll put Bryon's priority slightly higher. And then on top of that, I think Hewin's still one of the highest priority for me to sort of get the shards every single time, because Hewin is one of the strongest healers in the game and one of the most game-changing supports in Arena if she's able to pull her ultimate off. So that's where being able to get her tiers up, maybe towards the Paragon tier, might be really helpful for you to net additional PvP wins. And even if you're not using Hewin for the PvP contents, you can still use Hewin for the varieties of PvP contents where you need her insanely good healing abilities. So generally Hewin's still insanely versatile both in the PvP side as well as the PvE side, making her one of the top priority from this arena store as well. So Bryon and Hewin definitely on the higher priority for myself. And then we also have Cassidy. So Cassidy comes in and out for certain bossing contents to be the best damage dealer from the Light Barrel faction. So let's say if you want want to have an edge for your bossing contents, such as your Ravage Realm, such as your Dream Realm side of things, in case you don't have other meta units built up, or for your Battle Drill bossing side, or even future bossing contents where you need a decently good Light Barrel magical damage dealer, then you can definitely get some Soul Sigil for Cassidy as well. So out of this store, the top 3 priority will be Hewin, Bryon, as well as Cassidy, based on your personal preference, like I mentioned earlier. Now for the 1 copy unit, so previously Brutus is a 1 copy unit. People will actually advise you to get 1 copy of Brutus and then leave him there. So right now, I think Brutus is still okay as a 1 copy unit. But if you do have other tanks built up, then Brutus is a unit which you can consider to build up to the higher tier to be used for PvP purposes, right? Brutus is mostly used for that indomitable ability to survive 5 seconds to buy time for your Mauler backlines to do what they want. But if you are able to get Brutus tiers up, he can survive better and frontline better to make him the better tank for your AFK stages. And then you can also run him for your Supreme Arena, because Brutus doesn't have that much of a like inbound counter. Only like probably Scalita as well as Odie. So his invulnerability is still really good to make him a good frontliner with all the debuffs as well as damage output that he's able to provide from the Mauler class itself. So still decent if you want to build him up, but not the priority. I think 1-2 copy or sufficient copies for him to sort of tank on your PV stages would be sufficient. And then for Rowan's case, same thing, same as Brutus. Like this unit is a unit that excels at deficit pushing for AFK stages. So if you want to have a unit that has been consistently performing for your deficit pushers, I think Rowan's a pretty good choice for you to build up eventually to the Supreme Plus tier, because the Super Potion that you unlock off your EX weapon skill as well as the additional heals and stats from the Supreme Plus tier gives you the ability for Rowan to actually deficit push a lot better with more heals as well as more stats for survival in general. So Brutus as well as Rowan, not a priority, but if you do want to build them up for deficit pushers or for certain PV contents or for certain PvP teams itself, they are usable as well. So these 2 units I'll say is okay. Now for the units which you shouldn't go for. So 1, Atalanta. Haven't actually found a use for her from the past and still no use to the present. And then second one is Cecil. As much as I love this unit a lot, as much as I love talking about Cecil, Cecil has indeed been power cracked by a lot of other meta units out there, be it in terms of the PvP side or the PvE side. So not a good unit outside of maybe Ravage Realm or Graveborn damage centric contents where you do need a Graveborn physical attacker. But even for that, I think Velkia might be able to take over that slot if you do intend to build Velkia up. So Cecil as well as Atalanta and Lumon, I'll say generally skippable because their use is really niche. Like it's not that they don't have use. Actually no, Atalanta has no use. Like you don't see her anywhere. Like Lumon has some use in smoky teams or just AFK stage pushing teams, but very niche. And then Cecil as well, very niche for certain Ravage Realm users, and that's why I don't recommend them. Now for Danny and Igor, they also don't see that much of a use, but to a certain extent Danny and Igor, they are still decently good for your PvP contents. So let's say if you lack a proper tank, you're not planning to build up your torrent for your general contents itself, you can consider getting Danny here for a decent secondary front line if you are building Fresto for your first team, for example. So this is one, I'll say, like advice that I'll give if you do plan to have a second tank. So that is quite okay. Like personally speaking, I think she's just like not as powerful as like the meta tanks like Fresto or Torrent. So like it's usable, it's just that like when you think of meta, you don't think of her. That's why people don't recommend her. But I'll say if you don't have a proper tank or if you need a proper second tank outside of your main tank that you're using, I think Danny's a good choice to go for as well, but not a priority. And then for Igor as well, very good for PvP to sort of buy you more time, because there's not a lot of, I'll say, like anti-Igor kit right now, only Odie as well as Galita. So if you're able to play around that, Igor's actually quite annoying for the PvP side. So out of all these units right here, top priority, Cassidy, Hewin as well as Bryon for your anti-Lilime tool. And then subsequently, other units you can consider upgrading would be Brutus as well as Rowan for more stats to improve their utility in whatever they want to do. And then right, if you have maxed out everything at least to the Supreme Plus and you want to have more horizontal investment, then I think Danny as well as Igor for PvP contents in general. Then the skippable ones, Cecil can skip, Atalanta's can skip, and Lumon can skip. So that is the updated Arena store guide with regards to the Chains of Eternity season. Thank you very much for tuning in. Do remember to like, subscribe to see more. I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye guys!